Welcome to YBC's Tiny Reps, aka Reparations Zoom Happy Hour.
Hosted by Dee Zimmerer, aka Sweet Baby D Bird, and Bree Cole, me. We are so thrilled to sit down virtually with some of our favorite creatives and keep it real, raise money for the Tiny Reps Fund, a sustaining grants fund to support our local Steamboat Springs BIPOC community.
Every third Thursday of the month, we Zoom it up starting at 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time.
To sign up or join the convo, become a sustaining or one-time donor of the Tiny Reps Fund, head over to our website, youngbloodscollective.org/tinyreps. Pew pew! Get this party started, right? You know, that song?
Is that S Club 7?
Is it?
Probably not.
I don't even know who that is. I feel like it's like a 90s like snap, you know? Or like, I don't know.
Let's get this party started quickly, right?
Yes.
I suggest.
Damn. That was.
Oh, Lord.
Totally dating myself. Yeah, that was my childhood.
Wait, so who was it?
I don't remember. I remember it was being, it was like always like in those DJ mixes.
Like CMC music or something?
Yeah. So it was always like one of the, like, you would find in like every single one, like from that time period.
I'm there. I love to be transported to the 90s. Welcome back. This is the third episode of Tiny Reps Zoom Happy Hour by YBC. I am joined by my amazing co-host, D-Bird. And we're thrilled to sit down with some of our favorite creatives and keep it real and raise money for our Tiny Reps Fund, which is an ongoing donation to stay active and support our local BIPOC community, helping them with things like rent assistance or medical bills or helping immigration stuff or, you know, just kind of some gap funding for whatever they might need it for that's not allocated elsewhere. And that was like the way we found that we could most support our local community that is not fucking white. A little ranty. But we have Winter, who like I know through D Bird, and we did her really amazing goddess moon circle. How do you?
Oh, New Moon Goddess Circle.
New Moon Goddess. There it is. And also I've been hitting up your Wednesday meditations, your hump day meditations. And
yeah.
it's been a really fun way to kind of get to know somebody virtually, you know, and like even though you're here, this is how we're able to connect. And that's been really cool experience for me. But do you want to like talk about how you ended up here?
Oh my gosh. Sure. Origin story. So, well, long story short, Spirit brought me here. Basically, I started off in New York. That's where I was born and raised. And I was doing all sorts of other work out there, not spirit work. I guess all work is spirit work technically. But really stepping into like this, like what I do now in terms of like energy work, meditation, channeling, all of that kind of stuff. I started doing it on the side while I was teaching ESL in New York City public school system. And what ended up happening was I just mentioned one day when we came back from summer break, like, oh, I started my own business and this is what I do. And then like dropped the mic and moved on. And slowly but surely, all the teachers started coming to my room asking me, do you have anything for negativity? Like, do you have like crystal, you know? And I was like doing it out of my room. I energetically set up my room so that it would be a sanctuary, because the work environment in the school itself was like super toxic, and that's how I had to cope with it. But I started helping my coworkers with crystals, with blessing and clearing sprays, like stuff like that, until the peace started like trickling throughout the school and all the different classrooms. And the one who was the toxic one was the principal, and she like started avoiding my room. I wasn't trying to do it like that, but she started avoiding my room. But then when I would be in the hallway, she would like harass me. So by the end of that school year, I got a very clear indication from my guides, like, it's time to move. I'm like, where are we going? And they're like, to the mountains. I'm like, you got to be more specific than that. And they're like, you know the deal, we can't. I'm like, oh, fine. So, because they can't tell you what to do. They can just give you like a hint. So I had also been visiting upstate New York to go hiking and stuff. And I'm like, well, maybe these mountains, but that didn't feel right. And then a friend who was in my DJ and MC collective like a long time ago, she hit me up and she's like, hey, I'm moving from Canada back to Denver. If you ever want to visit, let me know. And I was like, sure. I've never been there because I had visited her up in Canada. And I landed in Denver. I saw the mountains. I was like, no way. And then I got to her place, and when she was out of the room, I was like, let me just see. And so I meditated to like tap in to the energy, and the connection was like whoosh. I was like, holy, because in New York, it was like dial-up internet. Like, wait, no. Yeah, no. It was like you had to wait like 5 minutes before you could tap into the energy, because the density of the buildings and the population was like crazy. So I was like, I guess this is it. And when I got back to New York, I decided, I'm like, okay, that's it. I'm doing it. Everything fell into place within 4 weeks. I was out. Like, it was super fast. And so I was in Denver for 2 years, and then I met my person, and he was living up here in Steamboat. I met him on Tinder, and when I found out, I was like, this is not going to work. I don't do more than an hour away. But he put in
And
the
that's
work.
a long 3-hour drive.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's beautiful, but it's long. And you don't
Yeah.
like, it's better to do it during daylight because you can see the beauty, as opposed to nighttime where you're trying not to hit like creatures.
Yeah.
So he eventually showed me the area, and I was like, yeah, it's pretty. And then my lease ran out, and I'm like, well, I guess it's time to come up here. Plus I pulled cards on it. Like, I talked to my guides about it. I'm like, so Denver's been pretty cool. And they're like, yeah, no, you got to go up further up into the mountains. And I'm like, well, what would it look like if I did that? And they showed me. I was like, damn, okay. It looked great. So I came up here, and I just go where spirit tells me to go.
Amazing. That sounds like quite a journey. And yeah, these mountains have a powerful pull.
Yes,
No,
they do.
I know we were really excited to have you on this month, just thinking about what time of year it is for our creatives, especially getting things out for the holidays and post-election. We were thinking just to kind of get with you and just learn about what you do with soul coaching, and just kind of get us in like a good headspace for the end of the year, the kind of final closing of 2020, which feels so wild to say, but it's coming to an end, people. I think we're ready.
Thank God.
Oh
So
my
it'd
God.
be really fun to hear from Winter, like what the end of the year kind of means for you, and how creatives can kind of find some inner peace.
Gosh. So the way that I work one of the many ways that I work with energy is besides like working with clients and guiding them through transitions and shifts and helping them to like find their way in like all aspects, like career, relationships, like the whole jam. For myself, what I end up doing is as like around mid-month to like maybe a week before the month ends, I start picking up the energies of the upcoming month. Like I get a sense of how it's going to be. And
You can you tell us, like, is there, you do that through like meditation, or like what is that process like? How do you tap into that?
meditation is definitely helpful. I mean, I meditate every day for at least a few minutes. And I've done it in different ways. I've done it silently. I'll do guided meditations. The purpose of meditation for me is to help keep my channels kind of like open and clear and to recenter. And it's something that I highly recommend to like anyone that I work with. And I know that it's one of those kind of like triggering words like, oh, meditation, like I don't want to be zen, I can barely sit still and be with my thoughts. Like I get it. But there's so many different ways. Everyone has an access point. Like there's so many different ways to do it. You just gotta like kind of try them all, like, and find your way. But I kind of do it in the way of taking a curiosity to it. So like let's say, what was it, a week or so ago? I mean, my guides kind of like tipped me off, but it was a week or so ago when I was just like, I wonder what December's gonna be like. And the first thing I got was like, it's gonna be slow. I was just like, excuse me? Are you for real? And they're like, yes, but don't worry. Like you're gonna be okay. It's gonna be slow for a reason, because December is about rest, it's about recalibrating, it's about regrouping, and it's about getting clear about like how you want to move forward into 2021. And you can't do that if you're working your ass off. Like you gotta chill just a little bit to get ready, because 2021 is gonna be big in like really good ways. But you have to like have the energy and the centeredness to like be able to participate in that.
And do you have any like good techniques for kind of slowing yourself down?
So I'm trying to, because when I don't do intentionally, like if I had the option, I'd be like, go, go, go. Because that's just I have a lot of fire in my chart. And I know that I also, like as a Gemini, have like workaholic tendencies. Like I'm always doing something. And I'm very experienced with burnout, like knowing when it's starting to creep up on you and then like, oh, it's too late kind of thing. So some of the best ways of kind of catching yourself before you get to that point is noticing how easily irritated you're getting with things, right? If your levels of patience are really starting to dwindle. And right, so patience is dwindling, resentment is starting to creep up, and you're being a little bit more relaxed than usual with like how you're taking care of yourself. So that means like going for the junk instead of going for the good stuff. Like you're kind of like letting things slide because you're too tired to like, I don't have the energy to like X, Y, and Z. All those are indicators that like, okay, you need to kind of like schedule in time for yourself to take care of yourself. And it's a conscious thing. Like even for me, like I have to remember, okay, at least once a week, take out a chunk of the day. Like if there's a day where I don't happen to have any appointments with clients, I'm like, boom, 3 hours. This is my chunk of time for self-care. What am I going to do? I think I'll wander into town, chill by the river for a bit. Maybe I'll go get a salad from Seeds. Like, it's me time.
That's
And
really lovely.
yeah, so I have to block it out on my Google Calendar, otherwise it won't happen. Like, I have to schedule time for myself to like do that. But when I do that, I feel refreshed. I feel like my cup has been filled again. My patience goes back up. I'm not as
Mm.
resentful that I've been helping everybody else except for myself. Yeah. So that's like a way to like kind of get it in at least like once a week. Um, One thing that I used to love doing that I don't do so much of anymore is every once in a while I would book like a motel or a hotel, like at least 30 minutes or more, like an hour away from where I lived, and call it my hermit time. And I would just jet and bring my journals, my tarot decks, my oracle cards, and like maybe a tablet, maybe, because I didn't want to bring the laptop with me. I was like as far away to just be able to like unplug. And when I was doing that, I was doing up in Boulder at foot of the mountain motel or something. It's like cabins. So I would go there and it was just walking distance to town. I'd pick out some random place that looked cute to eat. Like it was just like hardcore self-care for like 2 days.
Hmm.
Yeah. So you can work it like any way that it feels right and how it fits in for you. But it's important to do. And I do come across people who feel like, oh, but I feel like I'm being selfish.
Mm.
Yes, you are. But you have to be.
Yeah, like
You have to.
that's not necessarily a dirty word.
No.
Do you feel like ever like just for me, I don't know, I guess maybe something I do is like just this mass stimulation with like social media and news and this. It's like sometimes I'm like, when I go to my studio, I just don't bring my phone. But like, I don't know, like you've been saying, I'm trying to figure out like tools. Like I realized this year, I was like, I don't have any tools for like managing stress and emotion. I don't know. So that's a cool one. I don't know. I'm trying to figure them out. So
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, there's lots of different ways. Like if you have a bathtub that's like functional and that you enjoy using from time to time, taking a sea salt bath is really great for clearing your energy on like all levels. It's like deep energy purifier. You feel so bright and shiny coming out of that. Especially if you visualize like all of the annoyances and irritations and like people like just kind of melting away into the water. And visualization is real. So like if you think it, like it is. So you can turn that sea salt bath from a purification thing into even a scrying thing where you want to like receive information and like downloads. So there's like so many different ways that you can work with water and like sea salt. If you don't have a bath, you can do it with a sea salt scrub. I do that sometimes when I don't have the time to wait for the bath and to do the bath and all that stuff.
Into that. Love to hear that. Bree, should we get back to our little checklist of questions that we have for winter so we don't miss anything?
Yeah, I know. It's like,
The
and the
tangent is
timing
real.
just feels so perfect. So we have some like kind of quick and dirty questions that we like to ask just to kind of center the conversation in the times we are living in, which is like, you know, yeah, it is what it is. 2020. So what have you been your like corona high lows? Could just be like whatever, however much you feel like expanding on.
Okay, I'm gonna go in the order of low high. So corona, when it first like started, it knocked me on my ass in the way of like I just didn't know what to do, and I ended up having to like shut everything down. The office, business was crickets, and I was freaking out and asking spirit like, what do I do? And they're like, come back later. I'm like, no.
Like an 8-ball.
Yeah, you need to you need to give me something here. And they're like, for the next 48 hours, just do intensive self-care, whatever that looks like for you. And I'm like, I can do that. I'm gonna spa it up then. And I got the face mask and the sea salt and all the things. And I was just like, there's nothing I can do anyway. So I might as well take really good care of myself. And then after that time period, I was able to get back online with Spirit. And they're like, okay, so everything that you were doing before, you're going to be doing it different. And so that became the high. So what Corona did for me was it helped me to see that the way that I was being of service before was actually very limiting, not just to myself, but to the people that I was serving. I mean, I was doing wonderful healing things, but I had this sense, I'm like, it could be so much more though, but I couldn't see it. And so it took a shutdown for me to be able to see how it could be so much bigger.
Yeah. I can really relate to that. I had I mean, my life is totally different, but because of this whole thing happening, and what I was doing was not fulfilling my soul in any way. And now, like, I have an opportunity to do something so different and more magical, and that means more. So it's nice to hear that that's also been your experience. And you know, I think there's a lot of silver lining to glean from this, but also very much noting that, like, I get to say this from a place of supreme privilege, and that, you know, a lot of people are struggling. Pour it out for the homies. D-Bird, you want to get her with the next rapid fire question?
Yeah. So Winter, do you spend much time on social media? Are you following any people of color new that you'd want to share with us, or just people that are inspiring to you in your field or just interests you online?
I'm like mentally scrolling through the accounts that I follow.
It's like refresh.
Yeah. So it's funny. Social media to me has kind of become a like on an as needed basis, because I can see how quickly my energy can get sucked into that hole. Which is why, like, I'm hardly ever on Facebook, although I do have like a page there. And I use tools to schedule things ahead of time, so I don't have to be on there all the time. But some of the, it sounds terrible. Some of the people that I followed that I found really inspirational, like a month ago, like I ended up unfollowing. It's like the energies have shifted in the way of like how people are showing up with certain things. Where before I was just like, yeah, but then you like kind of see behind the veil and you're like, wait, what? No.
Do you have an example? I think that's a really interesting, and also something where I'm like, yeah, I feel like there was a rash of just like, yeah, everyone's like feeling, you know, like on this, and yeah, but there's another side.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I wonder too, like, I've been going through those motions of like, oh my God, I need to disconnect from this person. Like, there are their true colors, or this isn't aligning with me. But then I have this other side that's like, without social media, like, I would still have conversations with this person, like, in person. And so it's like, is there maybe some value in keeping them in my life to see their opinions, so I know like what other people are thinking, or like open up a conversation? Or is it better for like myself to just disconnect? I'm like, I don't know, I'm having a hard time with like what the balance is around those things.
Yeah,
That's so real, Liza.
Yeah. I've the way I've decided to approach it is that how does their feed make me feel? Right? If I get this like feeling, I won't always necessarily unfollow. Sometimes I'll just mute it for a while just to remove it. So my feed ends up being filled with a lot of like there's a fair amount of like fluffy woo in terms of like angel numbers and like planetary transits, like all this stuff that like I'm really interested.
That's your fluffy woo winter,
I
really?
mean, I guess it's like this conjunction is happening today, and like these, I'm just like, oh, that makes so much sense. So I get more caught up in the spiritual, energetic happenings.
Like treating it like a personal space, maybe.
Yeah, because I'm like, well, no one is really seeing this but me.
Yeah.
Tailor it to what feels good. So I'm just gonna do that. And
no, that's so real.
Right? So it's like I don't have to be loyal to these total strangers I don't even know. I'm like, and there's that whole transactional thing, right? Where like you get a follow and then it's like, okay, fine. But then you're looking at their feet and you're just like, why? So it's a interesting kind of relational thing happening on there. But one of the ones that I did get jazzed up about a while ago was this one account, and I don't know if y'all know her, but her name is like Rachel Rogers.
Wait, why do I know? I know that one. I can't think. Yeah.
She has a book, I think it's coming out next year. It's called Everyone Should Be Millionaires. Or something like that. And she has this thing called the Millionaires Club. And so her whole thing is about uplifting women of color to be, entrepreneurs, self-made millionaires, yada yada. And I was just like, yeah, I want to be a millionaire. So I took money out of my savings to sign up for her club. I'm not even gonna say how much a month it was, but I was like, I'll do 3. I did 2 because by the second month of it, I was catching on to some of the veneer. And I'm like, wait a minute. The way this is all set up is this giant club where you're with all these women attending these Zooms where the founder herself, like every once in a while, actually sits in. But when she does, you can't really talk to her. Like she's unreachable. And I'm like, this feels weird. Like, I want some connection in the air for the amount of money I'm like putting into her business.
I know how much that was. I did a Zoom session workshop.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah. So it was just like it went from this whole like being super inspired and like doing her workbooks and everything to like, wait a minute, something's not right here. Like,
wow,
something's not clicking. And then I got pissed.
The stages.
The stages. I got pissed and I felt bad for like there was a guilt behind like, well, why can't I be aligned with this? Like she's representing everything, like a lot of what like a lot of us aspires to, like be independent and like comfortable, like she's putting up pictures of her new ranch and like stuff like that. And I'm just like,
glow up is insane. Yeah. So now I'm like, holy shit, girl.
So not to say some of the tools that she gives are really helpful. Like there are some things where I had aha moments, but not in the amount that I was expecting to.
At that price tag.
At that price tag. And I realized, I'm like, holy shit, it seems like there's a lot of busy work here before you can even get to like the meat and the potatoes, which it's a required 30-day minimum before you even get to join the group. And you have to do all these worksheets because they want to make sure that like you're primed. I'm like,
almost like cult-esque.
Like MLM meets. Yeah. Ooh.
Yeah.
Wow. What a
Yeah.
cool
So I was just
story.
like, okay. I'm like, I'm gonna take what resonates, and I canceled after the second month, and now it's like to the point where I can't even like see her face. Like I've just like deleted and unfollowed and unsubscribed. I'm like, no. I'm like, more power to her. Like she's doing something that works for her, and I guess it works for a bunch of people. But with the kind of work that I do, it didn't resonate. And with other people that I've been following on social media, I'd have to say the most consistent I've seen in terms of vulnerability and like owning like white fragility and all the other stuff has been Brene Brown.
I love Brene
She's
Brown.
been amazing. Yeah.
Her podcast is a rock.
And I love like how willing she is to be like mad awkward and just like, I don't know, please break it down, please correct me, like all the things. And her genuineness behind it, like she sincerely wants to like get it. There was one podcast that she did with this author, I forget her name, but it was I can't remember it. It was a while ago, but I was listening to it with a friend on a drive, and I just listened to her navigate the awkwardness with this woman asking her questions about her book, and I was just like, what a wonderful example to be setting. Like it's okay to like not know and to ask and to put yourself in that position so that you can understand and know how to move forward in like certain situations. So yeah, that was my
That was great.
unexpected roast of Rachel.
But yeah, I
Oh my gosh,
It's amazing.
yeah, it is. It's pretty great.
I'm like blushing over here, you can't see it.
You're like me in the darkness.
I'm like, is it hot in here, or is it just me?
Amazing. So I know you want to talk about Dear White People, the series on Netflix. What is there like a character that you relate to or like that you really enjoy? And if no, that's okay too. We can
No,
like we've
I
got
have to
a
say,
couple questions on
and
that one.
I think this probably just goes hand in hand with like my own background. So the lead character,
Oh, she's fucking amazing
Oh,
and
she's
so
the best.
hot. Oh my,
I was
oh my
just like, I was so excited to see someone mixed as like the lead and having all the things happen to her. And I was just like, yes. And watching it with my hubby too, who's white and from Indiana, so like he has his own lens. I started watching it, and he walked in one day. He's like, "What are you watching?" I'm like, "Dear White People." He's like, I'm like, "Whatever." And then he was in the kitchen, and he was kind of watching him, and then he eventually sat down next to me. It was just like, he's like, "Why'd they say that? What's going on here?" I'm like, oh, "Okay." He got
Someone's
sucked into it.
interested, huh?
He got sucked into it, and we ended up like binging like the entire rest of it over like the next like week and a half. And it was great because it brought up so many conversations between the two of us, and questions. Like he was wondering, he's like, wait, but they're like different groups, but they're the same, but why are they like fighting? Like I don't get. I'm like, honey.
The trans people, the everyone.
Yeah, so I was like explaining things to him, and he's like, oh, I didn't know like it existed like that. And I'm like, yeah. And coming in with his lens, and then like seeing like himself like represented like through like the frat boys and
Mhm.
stuff like that.
And Gabe, you know.
Yeah. And him like kind of laughing at it, but like in a kind of awkward way, and just being like, huh, yeah,
Cringe.
they nailed that one.
Oh,
And I'm like, it's okay, honey. They're not talking about you specifically.
and people can
So
change if they want to.
yeah. So it was wonderful. And the thing about it for me was that I had seen it listed on Netflix for a really long time. But it wasn't until the whole movement like kicked up that I was just like, all right, let me see what this is about. Because I had seen it mentioned on like lists of recommended films and series and stuff like that. Prior to that, I just the title of it, I was just like, mm-mm. I had an immediate aversion to it, and I'm like, and my aversion was just like, too serious. I just want to tune out. Like, I don't want to have to think about it. But when all the stuff was coming up about, books and whatnot, I was just like, ooh, that's on there? Let me dig into that, because I've been avoiding it for so long. And it was perfect.
I think it also does do a really good job of like, even if you can't relate to it, it's like has enough entertainment, and like the production quality is amazing. And like, I want to look at all of those people except for Gabe all of the time, like.
Well, it's like a great, like, it tackles both worlds of like social justice and like tune out binge, which is kind of what we all need right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
And set on a university or like collegiate campus, it just hits the tone so hard of those early 20s where you're just trying to like scrape it together and like figure yourself out. Like it's like very like fundamental of like who you become. And I think it was just really well done. I like think it's a really great portrayal.
I have a Dear White People backstory. My sister's friend plays Rashid. And he actually, it's kind of like sad on Lionsgate's part, especially with this show, which was like just a whole nother level of a problem. But they're renegotiating everyone's contract for the 4th season. And his like agent renegotiated for him, and they denied getting paid more money. And then he talked to other cast members, and they all decided to be like fully like open with what they were getting paid. And the white characters, so I think it's like the frat guys that are about the same pay tier as him, got the raises that they asked for, and he didn't. And so him and like 3 other characters that were at like his pay tier didn't, and they were, I'm not sure, I haven't followed up with my sister on it, but I think they are like striking right now against Lionsgate. But it's like all of the people, like the characters, everyone was like, we got to be like fully like transparent about what we're making, because.
And also everyone in Hollywood should do that.
Yeah, it's so important for like women and people of color, and just like having that, transparency. But I was like, such a huge bummer to hear that even on a show that's like about, Black people and people of color, to like undermine them like in the background. I was like,
and like in the circumstances you're trying, like, we're gonna find out.
yeah, it's like, and people are like actually coming out and talking right now. It's like not like the 80s or the 70s. I'm like, people want to, they want transparency and they want equality, like especially, in the arts. And so it's like, I don't know, just upsetting. But when I saw that we were going to talk about that this week, I was like, I should share this because I think it's important. But
Insider intel.
Yeah, right.
That is very disappointing.
That's crazy.
Yeah, super. I was sad. I was like, I love the show, but I still love all the characters and the show. And I'm sure the writers, it's like the higher ups that just.
Yeah, it's all still the white men, 1% running fucking everything.
Yeah.
And it's gonna end. God damn it.
2021. Maybe. Kamala Harris.
Yeah. She'll lift us up where we belong.
Yeah. But back to the positives of the show. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good. Well, our next question was like, did you do a rewatch? But you watched it in the like the summer?
Yeah, I watched it. It was a few months ago.
Summer was a few months ago, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was recent. So I only
This
watched
year.
it. Yeah, I only watched it once.
Do you think you'll do a rewatch?
Yes, but not. I don't know if I would rewatch the entire series. There were certain episodes that were really resounding, and I would go for those because towards the end it started getting a little like Harry Potterish with like the secret society, and I'm just like, what is
kind of went
happening?
off the rails.
I want to know where they go with that. I'm like, you need to bring it back. Like,
It started getting a little mystical up in there, and I was just like, wait, are we supposed to be taking this serious? Like, what's happening right now? Yeah.
I mean, I would be down for Black Harry Potter. Suddenly it just like totally shifts.
Especially with the headmister, the one who's like been living up in the tower.
Oh, yeah. You're like, how does this work?
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, I do really like that actor. You want to finish us out with our quick and dirty, D?
Yeah, do you want me to ask this? What messaging do you feel like the show addresses that you wish Routt County community was more aware of?
Deep question.
It is because it's funny. I was also one of the people interviewed for that. What was the name of that issue of the paper?
Oh, the
Finding
Indivisible.
Voices?
Indivisible. Yeah.
Oh.
I was one of the people interviewed for that, and I mentioned like dear white people in that interview too. I'm like, seriously though, like it's not that difficult. Just go to Netflix. So the issue that's addressed there that it would be great if Routt County were more aware of. Honestly, to be more aware of stereotypes as like a filter, like assumptions.
Can you elaborate on that?
So one of the things that came up when me and my hubby were watching the show is that he said, it's great, like the actors are great, the writing is great. He's like, but the thing that's getting me is like the way that the characters are played. He's like, they just feel so stereotypical. Like, and I'm like, well, it's blown out like that for a reason. Part of it is like entertainment, but part of it is to kind of like illustrate like the stereotypes that exist. And I feel like if there was a greater awareness of like how that isn't necessarily reality, because I can see easily how someone might watch that and be like, oh, so this is how it is. I'm like, no.
That's like,
it's not how
the
it
never
is.
ending like Black people and people of color are not monoliths, and like this is not the monolith. This is
it's like
a way to communicate.
exactly. It's like they're just portraying what was created by society. Like that's not actually how it is, like 100%. You know, like there are definitely like certain people who take to that sort of like personality type or whatever, but that's not like actual like reality. It's like a caricature.
Right.
And I can very easily see someone being like, "Whoa, you told me to watch Dear White People." I'm doing my I'm doing my homework. Okay. So that's
bare
Well, and
minimum.
that's the scary part is like people who like understand that this is like a blown up stereotype for
Yeah.
a reason, and then there's people
Yeah.
who like are like that's how it is, and you're like wait, you gotta do more work. Like it goes deeper than this, and
Yeah, it's kind of like I heard Dave Chappelle talking on a podcast, and he had the Chappelle show that was like pretty. Do you guys ever watch that Chappelle
A
show?
little bit. BB, of course, loved
yeah,
it.
PJ did, so I've caught background. Like,
Yeah, it was definitely like a boy show for sure. But he just was saying that like the problem with that show for him was he was making like these like pretty outlandish racial commentary and jokes and stuff, but like he'd be in the room with like all these white people and they'd be like laughing at like the wrong punchline. He's like, oh shit, like, this isn't where you want to take this. And he got conflicted in his work of like, this is a reality and it's blown out of proportion, and like people should be laughing at the fact that like this is racist and not like you're getting away with like racism, like kind of like that like fine line, and just like like he felt very lost of like how once you make something and like put it out there, like people are just like all over the map with like what they pick and choose, like how they feel about it. So especially with that show, I get where you're coming from of intentions are like going in with of like, oh, I'm watching this because I like they're looking for to be proven right sometimes and not to learn. And so
that's a good way to like phrase it in a sentence.
Yeah, D-Bird. Ham horn.
But yeah, I think I'm glad it's that we all got to relate to Dear White People. So I think we can move on to our next kind of just getting into what winter's all about and how she can help us set up for the end of the year. Bree, do you want to ask this next question?
Yeah, I'll dive in. So in our kind of intake stuff, you had said, self-care is soul care. And building off of what we were already talking about, just taking that time and scheduling it out and like, demanding that time for yourself, I think more than ever has become so important for creative people and women and non-white males, but even for them, like, please do this too. But do you want to elaborate on that at all? What kind of has allowed you to come into this space, or like helpful ways that other people can kind of harness that motivation to self-care?
So I've been reframing self-care as soul care, because I feel like self-care has become one of those terms that just gets like batted around by the wellness industry, and it's become this thing where it's like lost its flavor and people are like, what is this anyway? Like, I don't even know what you're talking about.
Seems like a white lady thing.
Yeah, it's just like first images that pop into mind is like laying down in a spa with a towel wrapped around here. Like, it's
Cucumbers.
Yeah, exactly.
Or like shopping day, or like this, it's
Exactly.
It's like treat yourself, like
Totally.
I mean, that the Tom and
such a
sign me up for that.
I've done it. I know. I'm like, sign me up. But I think it kind of all gets like
it's it feels watered down now. So I'm reframing it as soul care, because ultimately we are all divine beings. Like, we all have a soul and we all need to take care of it. And the reason why it's important to take care of your soul is because if you don't, you will be sucked dry. And then you will be like an old husk that's like angry and bitter and resentful. But soul care, it's deeper than self-care. It's about paying closer attention to what makes you feel good. It's about being more aware of how you're using your energy, like who you spending your time with. Like, is that making you feel good, or do you feel tired afterwards? Like, so it's bigger. And it's kind of like a lifestyle, because once you start soul care, it's like everything changes.
Hmm.
And it's really, really on the energetic level, and it extends everywhere from interactions, the digital world, right? So like curating your social media to see only that which brings you joy, it makes you feel good, to limiting your time online, whether it's like Zoom, like being more discerning and selective with like what workshops you're going to be attending and all that. Like, is it really going to like satisfy you, or are you just like feeling like antsy and restless and bored? Like,
Yeah.
what are you doing this for?
And if it's a Rachel Rogers, you can skip it.
Yeah. And interactions with people. So like we're, I don't know, like on the phone more with like friends and family. But if that's got you feeling like afraid, don't do it. You know, like you can get back to them in like a day or two. It's not like super urgent unless it really is. But you know, it's this way of curating your energy, your attention, and your focus so that you're essentially kind of like creating your own little world. Does that make sense? Okay.
Love that.
Yeah.
Intuition, kind of, do we want to talk about that a little bit? Like how it kind of seems like an underused, but very necessary sense. Like what ways can people tap into their intuition more purposefully?
So intuition is definitely an underused sense that I feel we all have. There are some people out there who say like not everyone's intuitive, and I don't believe that. I think everyone is definitely on some level, and there are ways to nurture it. And one of those ways again is definitely meditation, but the other ways are being in touch with nature. Like it's as simple as like going and like sitting by a tree or being by water and having your phone like out of sight. Sure, you can be like, hey, chilling by a tree, you know.
Get the
If you,
selfie first.
yeah, if you want to put in your stories, cool, but then put the phone away, because I'm guilty of that too. And I know the reason why I do is because I'm like, I want to inspire others. Like, go find a tree, chill. Okay, now I'm going to put it away and listen to what messages are coming through. So the more in contact you are with nature, whether it's hiking, sitting by a tree, being by a river, whatever, the more in contact you are with nature, the more contact you are with yourself. It's as simple as that. And when you start developing that connection, it's really a relationship. You start developing that relationship with nature. It creates a space, and this space will come into play and will be accessible for you because it's not filled with like digital anything, distraction, anything. Like you now have this space that you are able to access when you're in nature, where you can figure out solutions. You can receive inspiration through ideas and downloads. Um, you can receive. Like if you've been like pushing for something to happen really hard, and you're like, ah, oh, whatever, I'm just gonna go for a hike. Watch it happen when you go for the hike, because you finally let that shit go. So, especially for those who find it difficult to meditate, I would say start developing a relationship with nature. Yeah.
Works like a charm. That's great. Do you stay in Oak Creek usually when you go out in nature, or do you come into town?
I come into town, and my hubby's like, I don't understand. The reservoir is right there. like Sarbus Creek is right there. I'm like, those are your places. Like that's where he likes to go fish and hunt. I'm like, no. I'm like, I go in town because I have a relationship with the river there, and also over in that trail, the way to the trailhead of Fish Creek Falls. Like I don't ever actually do the whole hike. I just like the trailhead, like that little path where you can sit by the stream. And that's why we rarely hike together, because he likes to to accomplish the whole thing. And I'm like, oh, look at this rock. I'm gonna chill with the water fairies. I'll see you later. So yeah, I come into town because I like to make, if I can, like a whole afternoon of it. Like I'll start off with a nice hike. I'll bring a journal and a pen with me in case a spot calls to me and I sit and information wants to come through. I'll just like write. Usually it happens by the water. The water is very talkative. And then I'll come back and then I'll be like, do I want a smoothie? Do I want a salad? Like it's me time. So I definitely come into town for that. You can't really like get like a smoothie and stuff out here in Oak Creek.
Oak Creek's
yet.
on its way, right?
It's on its way, but it's also like a form of since it's like a 20-minute or so like drive in, it's a way of like leaving everything behind and going into a different space.
Yeah. Like the intentional, it's kind of like your weekend to your motel or whatever, like
Exactly.
like carved out time, like I'm going to a destination, at the destination it's like what I want to do. And I feel like it'd be really cool if you like made a like winter's essentials, like just little like one sheet or something of like the salts you like to use on your scrub, like for your baths, or and like the type of face masks, or like I don't know, like just little pockets of peace that you do that people could also like support, like what crystals you have, or I don't know, just kind of like your little grab bag of.
Do you want me to make it like a separate sheet to email you or to like put it in like the chat?
Either way, whatever you feel you want to
Like
share.
a little zine. Little winter guide zine.
Okay. So
You don't have to be put on the spot now to do that, but if you're called to do something like that,
Yeah,
of
exactly.
like, beginners tapping into your intuition with winter or whatever, be amazing.
I can totally do that.
Or like a vlog or something of like your day, like this is like my soul care day, and just like a little pop.
Do you
Okay,
have
yeah,
a
the
podcast
chat's not going to be
that
big enough
addresses
for
it?
that.
Because you have a podcast, right?
I do. It's called Wandering Wisdom with Winter. And I have a link to the Apple one here, but it's on Spotify and all the channel things.
Cool.
So that's the link to that.
Perfect.
I can't remember if I have addressed in my podcast because I started like interviewing a bunch of different people, but I can definitely make a list of suggestions for a self-care day.
Cool.
Indoors and outdoors.
Yeah. A soul care, self-care.
Yeah. Tweak as you like.
That's amazing. Well, yeah, keep us in the loop and we can, follow up and send stuff out on our social media and stuff
Okay,
too.
cool.
So.
Yeah,
Great.
I'll put that together for you. You'll have it tomorrow.
Oh my, Bree, this reminds me of our idea of having a treat yourself retreat. Like winter would be definitely a keynote speaker.
Yes.
Oh my God, y'all should do
Need
that. I'll come. Sign me up.
Oh yeah, Liza, you'll be first.
Awesome.
I feel like we wanted to have like some sort of like nature element to it and like kind of like craft something and.
Well, if we do it in the summer and COVID's not a nightmare, we could use my mom's place because my shop and studio is pretty big now. So I have like tables and stuff. I know y'all are gonna have to see my work or my like work on the space.
Yeah, I'd love to.
It's been an evolving project.
Our dream was to have it up at Bella Vista. We're the stars here, but maybe one.
Yeah, right. I know. I wonder if there's like a way, or I wonder if it'd be cool to do something like, it'd probably be more affordable, but like at the hot springs, because they have the cabins up there.
Strawberry.
Yeah,
That's good.
but
Call.
we could do crafting section at my mom's because it's down the street, kind of in Strawberry Park, but
Yeah.
All right. We'll work on these dreams. We'll manifest this.
right, manifestation.
Treat yourself retreat
Yes,
is gonna
that sounds
finally happen
awesome.
years later.
It's funny, like I feel like I've never thought about this like self-care or like soul care. I love that you use that. And it's like come up so strong in therapy for me recently. Just like, I don't know, this year's just kind of evolved and I was like, oh my God, I am like in such a dark place. And then it's like, whoa, I need to like slow down and do this work because I'm just spiraling, you know? So I think everybody's probably, you know, I'm probably not alone. I think it's on the forefront of everyone's mind. So
Oh yeah.
these are good tips. So
Yeah,
thank you.
You're like our resource goddess.
Yes, resource goddess.
Awesome.
Amazing. So can you kind of like let us in on what you do with your clients as far as soul coaching? Like what is there like an intake process? Is there kind of like results that can be hoped for? Or is it more of just like the client informs the process? What does that look like?
Well, it all starts with an expansion call. So I have access to expansion calls on my website, and those are like free 20-minute kind of like, hey, what's your story? Like, what do you need help with? Kind of deal. And the actual coaching itself happens in two forms. It happens in a single session for those who, like me, sometimes like, I want to dip my toe first before I dive all the way in. And then I have like the 3-month program. So what a session with me looks like is after we have a conversation about like what's going on with the person. I want to know where they're feeling stuck, where they're feeling challenged, what's been difficult for them. And I also want to know like what their vision is, what their dream is of how they really want things to be, what they have been feeling like pulling at their soul. Like what are they feeling called to do if they're having that sort of thing going on. And based off of that, if we're doing the 3-month thing, I craft a living program for them. And what that means is it's living so that it's fully flexible and adaptable. So like, let's say we're on one trajectory and then they're like, you know what, I know we're going to do this, but I really want to do that. No problem. I can pivot. Not an issue. The other part of it is that the first month is really about uprooting old beliefs and paradigms and patterns that are keeping that person stuck and like getting the healing done. The second month is really more about, okay, now that we've like done that bit of work and cleared out some space, what do you want to put into its place? Like, what are the new beliefs, ideas? What's the new structure? And what is that you want to focus on, that you want to create? And then the third month is, okay, we've started creating what it is that you want. You have some new structures in place and like things are starting to fall into place, like synchronicities are beginning to happen and like you're on your way. So it's like that last bit of support before they like leave the nest. In a single session, it's more of, I feel like the people who get the single sessions are like, I have an immediate need. I want it like, I want help like right now. And I'm like, okay. So with that, it's like, what is it that you want to focus on? And after I get that, I lead them through a meditation calibration. Now, this is the single session is also how it happens in the 3 months too, just breaking it down further. So I know what they want to focus on. I lead them through a meditation calibration, and you kind of experience that a little bit in the hump day thing, because when I do a guided meditation, I'm doing energy work at the same time. So it's bringing the person through specific energy shifts to bring them into a space where they're more able to move past the blocks and be able to move forward in a way that they want to. So after that calibration happens, we get into deep, like reflective questions. And these questions are given to me by my guides. Because they do these questions that like nail it. Where the person's like, oh, well, but that's what the meditation was for, because if we had tried to do that before that, it would be like not ready for that. But they're calibrated for it. So it's like they're open to opening those doors and exploring deeper to like, you know, get to like the heart of it. And then once we have the thing that is that they want to move towards, the guided visualization starts integrating that into their energy. And then at the end, sometimes there's Reiki, sometimes there's channeled like messages, but every time they get an activation, which is a task where I give them the ball to run with it. And it's specific to what's going on with them to help them start taking action themselves, so that they're receiving the support, but then they also have to put movement into it also.
Huh.
That sounds like very effective. It's kind of like a form of therapy, would you say, or not quite therapy? Like
It's kind of like a cross between therapy and counseling and energy work, but it's not me doing the counseling. Like when I'm in that mode of like doing the questions and all of that, the whole session, I'm in channeling mode. So source and spirit are coming through me. Like I step aside and let them lead the way, because they know exactly what to ask, what to tweak, like shift and like the energy to help the forward movement.
wow. Can you explain Reiki? Such like a mystery to me.
Yeah, Reiki.
Me too. Me too.
So I'll do the technical explanation of it. It's a healing modality that originated in like 1920s Japan. And it was discovered by this Japanese doctor who practiced Western medicine, but he was also like a deeply spiritual dude, and would go to like the monastery every day to meditate for like an hour. And so one day he got this download of these symbols and the information of using the symbols to heal. And he was like, this is interesting. So he goes back to his patients and does the tests and taking some of them, not all of them, and just starting to use the symbols while like he worked with them. And he found that the patients that he used the symbols with healed faster than the ones who didn't. And so Reiki, the word means Rei is universal wisdom, and Ki is universal like life force. So it's a universal life force energy that exists like all around us. And the way that it comes through is through the symbols that each Reiki person is attuned to. So like as a Reiki master, I have the symbols from level 1, level 2, and level 3. So when you're at the master level, you don't have to use all the symbols. You can only use the last one that you're attuned with, which makes it easier on us. Because the 1 and 2, those symbols are a little complicated to like draw out. But what happens is there's specific hand positions. And the practitioner may lightly touch or hover. I prefer to hover just to respect like boundaries and space. But it starts with over the eyes, and then it moves on to the head, and then the back of the head, and then the neck, and the shoulders, and then it goes down the torso like that. And the reason why they created those specific hand positions was because Dr. Asui was correlating them to organs of the body. But the way that Reiki works, it works from the cellular level to the energetic level. So it's healing on like multiple levels.
Is it what level would a chakra be on?
That would be the energetic level.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm actually someone who's in town in Steamboat for a period of time. I think he's a psychology student. He hit me up through my website recently. He was just like, can I like shadow or like apprentice with you? I was like, okay. So I'm gonna let him shadow me while I work on a friend who's also like a client. But it's the kind of thing where I was explaining to him, every practitioner has different levels of sensitivity in terms of what they're able to pick up while they're doing the Reiki. Since I already have intuitive and psychic abilities, I can pick up a whole lot more information than just what the Reiki is doing. But I've also met Reiki practitioners who just use the pendulum to like check each chakra, like before and after. And I've told them like, oh, I saw this and that. Like, cool. I'm like, oh, you didn't see it. Okay. So yeah, everyone has different levels of sensing and like sensitivity.
And with that information, like after you're finding and putting your hands over people, what is like the outcome? Like, are you like talking with them of like what happened during that?
When I was doing it in person, I wouldn't say it while I was doing it. I would wait till after, like at the end of the session, and be like, so this is what came up. But now doing it virtually, and I don't even really do it over Zoom. I'm doing it for Zoom for the guy like I'm mentoring or whatever. But usually when I'm doing Reiki for people at a distance, being on camera is distracting for me. So even if they're laying down, because like I just need to focus on like what I'm picking up. So I use a proxy. My proxy's in the closet. It's a teddy bear. Because head, arms, legs, like it has similar limbs to a person, and they're cute and cuddly. So Reiki masters use teddy bears as proxies to send the energy to the person that they're working on. And I will make a note of all the things that come up, and then I'll like send them an email with like all the findings. There were times when I have had clients on camera when we did a combination of things, and like toward the end they wanted Reiki, where I'll be doing it and then I'll speak it as it comes up sometimes. So yeah.
Wow.
When you talk about like the symbols, is that kind of like you visualize these symbols that are also like your Reiki tools to
It's we have to activate them by drawing them on our hands, on each hand before we start. And once I draw the symbols on my hands, like I feel my hands start to tingle and get warm. So I'll know that like the Reiki is like activated. And then at the end of the session, also draw the symbol over the bear to kind of like seal it up when I end it. There's also, well, with my teacher, when I got my attunements, I also received Reiki guides. So there were certain guides that came through that I also call them in before I do a session with a person.
And those Reiki guides are like different from your ancestors?
Yeah. Like I went into the attunements thinking like, oh, I bet I know who's going to show up. Nope. It's never who you think it's going to be.
Is it people like you know or have concept of?
No, there's I think there's like two goddesses. Like there's two goddesses, there's one medicine woman, three goddesses, one medicine woman, and I think two Egyptian deities.
Oh.
Yeah. So the
Thank you
medicine
for
woman is the only one who's like not like one of those like gods or goddesses. She just showed up. I was just like, what do you do? She's like, Chinese medicine. I'm like, okay. I'm not gonna question you anymore.
Well, thank you so much for explaining that. That was super in depth and helpful.
You're welcome. It's my
Um,
You see
pleasure.
the word thrown out a lot, and I don't think I ever knew the like full background. So yeah, thanks.
You're welcome.
We had some questions about your podcast, and can you tell us like what your favorite guest has been, or an episode not to miss, or like what the experience has been like since being a podcaster?
Being a podcaster has been a lot more fun than I thought it would be. I was on YouTube for like 3 years doing like weekly readings and stuff like that. And then it got stale for me because I'm like, I feel like I'm just like talking at people. And more and more people started saying like, hey, I love your readings. I love listening to them. I'm like, wait, you're not watching me? You're like, no, you have such a soothing voice. Like, I like to listen. I'm like, well, then I should stop wearing cute outfits and like, you should think about doing a podcast. I was like, oh, I don't want to have to do another medium. So I resisted at first, but then I was like, you know, let me just look into this because so many people are like suggesting this now. It's kind of ridiculous. And I figured out a way to do it like way easier than how everyone was suggesting to do it. And I switched over and I was just like, wait, this is going to not just be about me. This is going to be about like all the amazing people and like the metaphysical wellness community and all the information that's out there and all their experiences. So that's why it's called Wandering Wisdom. Because I started tapping all of my colleagues first for like, well, how did you get on this path? And like tell everyone about what it is that you do. And it's been so fun because I want it to be kind of like one of those conversations that we tend to have with someone you know really well, and it goes off from like 3D to 5D, and it's like no one's listening, or are they? So it's like these conversations I'll have with my friends about the transits to like, oh, I did this reading recently, like stuff where anyone listening would be like, what are they talking about? Like I wanted it to be like that. So it's been really great. And some of my favorite ones have been with some of my closest friends, like Kate, who's a psychic medium, and her husband, who like does Akashic Records readings. And I had the one I had with the witch, asking her about like, so what's it like being a witch and a mom? Like, is your son cool with that? Like, how does that work? She's just thinking from my own background of like, my mom was witchy and like she kind of initiated me into like all that stuff. And her episode is so funny because she just like drops like F-bombs randomly, and I'm just like and I'm just like, I wonder what everyone's gonna think about this one. And she talks about casting spirits out of the house by banging pots and pans, like, get the fuck out. Like,
Oh my God.
I'm like, okay, you're gonna be the oddball episode, but I love it because that's like how it is. So yeah, it's a lot of fun, and I feel like I've kind of gotten a good sampling of like all the different modalities, and I'm still kind of like looking for people who do stuff that like I don't know anything about. Like someone's talking about like DNA program, like some kind of like DNA activation and program. So I'm like, yes, come talk, because we need to know more about this. So yeah.
Good for you. That's awesome. What are some podcasts that you listen to that you enjoy?
I listen to, well, Unlocking Us, and There's a couple other ones. I was listening to Woke and Wired for a little bit.
Ooh.
Yeah. She is one of those like social media persons, like helping people like do more conscious like social media interactions and more taking a more intuitive approach. So I like how she does that. She was the one who kind of helped me to see like how to curate your feed in a way that feels really good for you, as opposed to like feeling obligated to like take certain actions. And she's also really big on cacao, which I was drinking for like months, and then Spirit was like, you need to chill and switch to something else. And you know what? I end up Shaman Durek was one I was listening to for a while.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, Tommy boy.
Shaman Durek. So I have this tendency where I'll listen to some and I'll hop around. Like I was listening to Rachel Rogers one for a little while. Oh, I also listened to Girl Gang Craft.
Control delete.
Yeah. Girl Gang Craft has been really cool lately.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you heard of Jess Lively?
No, why does that name sound familiar?
She does like similar intuitive work. Like she'll like tap into, and like she talks a lot about like Abraham.
Oh yeah. Abraham Hicks.
Yeah, and she does a lot of like calls like with people and just like taps in and does kind of like what you're talking about.
Neat.
Yeah. I really liked her podcast. I'll send it to you.
Awesome. I've been a lot on like the audiobooks kick because of the drive between Oak Creek and Steamboat.
Ooh. Good.
Yeah.
Bree, I think, has some questions about your trip that you just took.
Yeah, I need to know everything. Are you getting the thatched house roof place?
We're trying to.
Is that the one that was like calling to you that you saw?
No, the one that was calling to us was the teak house, the very first one. That was the one that was in my vision. But the lady's being difficult, and so we backed out. But I feel like she's going to come back around because the other interested party is not sending her money or giving her like documents filled out correctly. So I feel like we're like the most legit next offer. But the thatched roof is something that we keep going back and forth on. We're like the logistics, man, like garbage, groceries, people, like access boat only, like how's that gonna work? But we did approach the owner at the listed price and said we can do this amount down, and then would you be willing to finance like 10 or 15 years out? And the owner is like, oh, it's not at that price, it's this price, which is like twice as much. And we're just like, and that sucker's been on the market for like 10 years. So and
wait, where is this?
This is
sorry. Okay, let's preface this.
This is Panama.
A request from Sarah.
Isla de Muerta.
Oh wow.
And I think that's part of the reason why it's been on the market for 10 years, because it's like on Death Island.
So are y'all looking to like spend part of the year there or like move there? Or?
No, we're looking to move there. We want to create an eco wellness retreat. Okay. And it's something that's been on my like, okay, this is going to be the pinnacle of like what I want to create in this lifetime. And then he magically like months ago was just like, when COVID happened, was like, let's just move to Panama. I'm like, wait, why Panama? Like, that's random. He's like, because it has a really great expat community. I'm like, oh, you've been doing research. Okay. All right.
Wow.
I'm going to consider this.
So you just got back from there?
We just got back a few days ago. And it's a beautiful place. It was really nice to be in tropical weather with lots of moisture, although my hair just like could do nothing with it. It was, and I'm like, babe, you're seeing me in my true natural state right now. He's like, oh, I love it. I'm like, oh, such a pain because it like tangles so much when it wants to suck up all the moisture. But it was.
Did you hit it up with some salt water?
No, I was the day that I wanted to get into the ocean was the day that like the tropical storm came and it just rained. So we could do nothing but chill like on the porch. But then I received mad downloads about like December and stuff. So I'm like, okay, all's not completely lost.
That when you were in your I think it was this week's hump day meditation, you were like kind of talking a little bit about it, which all her hump day meditations you can find on Instagram. It's like all your video ones.
Yeah, the IGTV.
I'm so into your hump day meditations. Hi Sylvie. This
What's
is my
your
pal Sylvie from Florida. And I just totally lost the train of thought. But and you were talking about just like being in the rain in this like tropical paradise, and I'm like, oh my God, what I wouldn't give. That was a magical moment for me that I got to have vicariously.
It's a lot of vicarious living right now.
Yeah.
Through others.
Name of the game.
Yeah. So we're trying to, well, it really depends on who gets back to us and who's willing to work with us or whatever. But we were originally aiming for like January, but
That's
we
quick.
shall see. We're kind of like, well, the house is under contract now, so I'm putting an offer on this house in Oak Creek.
In Oak Creek.
Yeah, so we would have to be out, I think, by January, February, anyways. But the backup plan is to find an apartment to rent in town or in Hayden, and just like figure it out from there. So.
And would you head to Panama without the eco retreat in place?
I think we're kicking around as an option in terms of like getting an apartment to like live down there short term, just to continue seeing properties and whatnot. But I also I'm in also the process of figuring out, I have an apartment in New York that was my dad's, and it's like an HDFC co-op like low income housing apartment, which means you can't do much with it. So I have someone living there now, which is cool, but I was looking at trying to sell it. But the way that the rules are around that in New York is if you sell, it's a 60-40 split, 60% going to the building.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah. So they
Are you from New York?
Yeah. I'm from the East Village.
Oh, cool.
Damn.
I went to school in New York. But I love New York. So my mom's from Yonkers. So our family. Yonkers.
Yonkers.
I
Got
love
the
it.
accents. Her whole family's got the Yonkers accent.
Mine only comes out when I'm really tired. And hubby's like, why are you talking like that? I'm like, I'm tired, leave me alone. I'm getting elongated.
Oh my God. Dream. What a treat. What a treat. So I, in part of my vicarious living these days, I'm like desperate to know of any foods or drinks or fruits that you've consumed in Panama that are like not accessible here.
I am sorry to disappoint you. I was hoping for some exotic fruits myself, but there's banana trees like growing everywhere, like on the side of the road. So they didn't have bananas for sale in the supermarket because they're like, just go outside and pick one. So what you have instead are like tons of fruit stands where people would gather the fruit from their properties and then just put it on the table and sell it for like mad cheap. So it's like, we took the effort of harvesting it for you. We just want to be compensated in kind. So what was really good was having banana, pineapples, papaya, eating it like freshly picked, and it tastes very different than like supermarket kind. Like papaya has way more flavor when it doesn't have to like sit on your counter for like a week to like turn yellow.
Right.
When it's given its proper time and then it's like harvested. Also the pineapple, was way less acidic. It was sweet. It didn't have that bite that, you know what I mean? That
Mhm.
the supermarket pineapple has, that little like kind of like cunningness to it.
Totally.
All right, y'all are making
Oh.
me hungry.
Yeah. Send me tropical fruits. Send me to the tropical fruits. Oh, man. That totally sufficed for my vicarious living. Vicarious palate.
I don't know many people that have been to Panama. Is it kind of, what's it like down there?
It's lots of honking. Everyone uses their horn to talk. And no one uses turn signals to switch lanes. So you have to be constantly like on the alert. Oh, and like how we have crows here, pigeons in New York, they have street dogs everywhere.
Whoa.
And it's
Cute
like, I learned, I'm like, oh, cute. Don't make eye contact. Street dogs do not F around. They just want food. They only want to be touched. And like even like the small ones are like super vicious. So I'm like thinking about our Akita, Isamu. I'm like, if we bring him to Panama, like he's gonna get his ass kicked. Like he's such a cool pup compared to like these little like tough like street dogs. But yeah, and it's like when people there want a pet, they just find a street dog that they like, that they think is cute, bring it to the vet, get it its shots, clean it up, put a collar on it, and then the dog is like, "Yay, I have a home now."
God.
So, yeah.
Oh,
Every person we met there that had a dog, they're like, "Yeah, we found it on the street, took it home."
Is it mainly like English speaking?
No, it's mainly Spanish speaking.
Do you speak Spanish?
Very little. All my Spanish are commands from teaching ESL to like little kids. Sit down, do this, say that, write this. So my vocabulary is kind of limited, but traveling with Adam, whenever we come across people, they'll be like, habla español. I'm like, whoa, just because I'm brown, chill. He's like, you know, you're going to get this like all the time. I'm like, I know. But I'm like, that was a thing in New York too. So I would want to answer them, but I know more French and German than I know Spanish. So they would ask me something and my brain was working on it in French. I'm like, no, can't, they're not gonna understand that. So I feel like I would pick it up pretty quickly though, just because when I lived in Germany for like 2.5 years, the first month I did like the immersive thing. And like when it's around me constantly, like I remember it like really easily. So
Is there a big population for kind of retreats and more like spiritual work down there? You know?
From the places that we were going where I was saying what it is that I wanted to do, they're like, yeah, that would be amazing because we don't have a whole lot of that here. More of that's in Costa Rica, like next door. So there's a market for it here, especially with the expats, like the international crowd that comes in often. They stay, they buy property, they start their own businesses. So the places where I wanted to be were near those kinds of neighborhoods to like get the word out more. And I think it would do really well.
Nice. I want to go.
And are you having any issues like setting up a business there? Do you have to get visas? What's the
Yes,
situation about living there?
we have an attorney that was recommended to us by one of the realtors down there. She lives in Texas and she's Panamanian. So that reminds me, I have to send her pictures of my passport. So she's setting us up with visas, and she's also helping us get our business incorporated. So she's doing all the paperwork for that. I don't know why I've been so lazy about sending my information.
You're waiting for the dream home to come through.
I know. I'm just like, And the next time he bugs me about it, I'll be like, shit, sorry. Okay, I'll go do it now. Kind of thing. But part of me doesn't feel like the rush because I'm like, other things need to fall into place first.
Bye, sister.
Okay, cool.
One
One more
keep us
question.
posted when that all happens, and
I will.
it sounds so amazing. Yeah, we're ready to visit whenever that's a thing we can do again.
Is it a direct flight to Panama, or what's the?
I don't know. We did a to Florida and then from Florida to Panama. I don't know if they're doing
What
direct.
Florida airport?
Fort Lauderdale.
Lauderdale. The
It was
inferior
the
coast.
cheapest tickets that we could find. So we're doing like those 2 a.m. flights, like
Ooh.
out of Panama.
Oh,
Well done.
Which was challenging because they have an 11 p.m. curfew. So we found someone with a special permit to drive during curfew hours. Yeah, it was crazy.
what? And they have a curfew because of Corona.
Yeah, it's from 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. In addition to the constant temperature
Wow.
checks and sanitizing at every store.
Is it affordable place, would you say, compared to like Costa Rica and stuff?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the couple times we went shopping for like groceries, for the times that we had like an Airbnb and we had a stove and we wanted to make food because to try and go get food was like an hour away. Groceries are mad cheap. Like everything's like 50 cents but it's like dollar store cheap.
Damn.
I know. And like this, and when it comes to like the meat and the eggs and the veggies, it's all fresh. Like there's chickens constantly loose, free range everywhere with the street dogs. So the eggs were great. Like I was just like, wow, I wish we had eggs like this back at home. I guess we need to get some chickens. Yeah.
Damn. Counting the days.
Winter, you're amazing. Really appreciate you taking the time today and sharing all your insight.
Thank you. It was my pleasure. And I'll send you that soul care day suggestions so that you can put up on your IG so that everyone can get in on that goodness.
Yes.
That's soul care.
That's soul care.
Yes,
and
You're welcome.
And Winter did put in the chat all of her info, so if anyone wants to reach out to her personally, feel free to do that too.
Yeah.
And Venmo her if you felt inspired by the chat. And yeah, the weekday hump day meditations are amazing, so I highly recommend.
Yes, the last one is going to be next Wednesday, and then I'm going to be introducing a meditation calibration membership through my site that's accessible to everyone.
Amazing.
Like the sound of that.
Yes.
Well, I feel so fortunate that you have crossed paths with us here in this like not very people of color and of your like media, and it's been really cool to connect with you, and hopefully we'll keep connecting.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. It was awesome. I had so much fun.
Enjoy your dinner. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye,
Have an
everyone.
awesome evening. And take good
Too.
care of
Thanks
yourself.
for joining us.
Thank you so much for joining us for our virtual Tiny Reps happy hour.
If you feel compelled, please send some monetary praise to our guest. Their Venmo is in the chat.
If you have any suggestions for future guests, email or DM us, info@youngbloodscollective.org or @youngbloodscollective on Insta.
We look forward to chatting with y'all to talk creativity intersecting with the BLM movement.
Speak up, show up, and let's turn the tides, y'all.